If rhetoric is transposition of representation with communication with interpretation, reification is the way the world is in an ontological sense. Here is an image taken in a shopping mall. The large advertisement hanging across the atrium is rhetorical. It is trying to speak to shoppers with an explicit message. But the mall itself reifies. Reify comes from the Latin word res, which means thing. Reification is the thinginess of the mall. It happens that this particular mall is of world historical importance. It is the very first mall in the world. The Southdale Centre in Minneapolis opened in 1956. Now, let's pass several aspects of reification here in this mall. Downstairs, you can see brightly lit shops, commodities that you may need to purchase, that you may or may not be able to afford. But these commodities and your purchasing power are related to a whole complex social and material formation of manufacture, corporations, work, and perhaps also exploitation, poverty, and existential angst. But the resistant thinginess of this reality makes it seem to be a state of affairs that is inevitable and forever, when of course it is historical. 1956 was in historical terms the day before yesterday, and if it is historical, it is arguable. Upstairs, another reification. You can see shuttered stores. With the rise of online shopping, malls and in-person stores are in decline. And where the decline is most serious, they become ruins. This is another version of reification, the sense of decline when you find yourself living in ruins. Now we're going to enter the shops. This is the world's very first supermarket, Piggly Wiggly, opened in Memphis in 1916. Its inventor was Clarence Saunders, and here is his patent application. The patent application said the following: "The object of my said invention is to provide a store equipment by which the customer will be enabled to serve himself, and in doing so will be required to review the entire assortment of goods carried in stock, conveniently and attractively displayed. The goods may be selected and taken by the customers themselves while making a circuitous path through the store." Supermarkets have since become ubiquitous parts of our lives, as if they have always been with us and always will, though in historical terms they only entered human life very recently. Here is a supermarket consultant, Simeon Scannell Katz, and he's parsing the meaning of the supermarket. One is the grab zone, or the impulse area at the checkout point. And 5 is a traffic builder, where essential items like milk are positioned in the most inconvenient place possible in order to force you past 4, where less essential items are placed at the buy level, which is at an average adult's waist or chest level. Items children might want are placed lower. Or to get to the milk, you might have to go down 6, called the power aisle, for heavily promoted items. Some parts of this experience are rhetorical, signs or advertisements, but this consultant advises the store owners for whom he works to keep these to a minimum. Let the objects and the configuration of the space speak for itself, he says. Reification is the inexorable existential reality of having to live with experience in order to consume milk. The price of reification is the invisibility for the moment of the social relationships of corporations to workers and consumers. And the environmental consequences of this mode of living is radically removed from its environment. The meaning and the selective blindness is in the insistent thinginess of this arrangement, its apparent ontological inevitability. Here we contrast, across the various forms of meaning, the processes of expression of interest via reification, the first row, with the rhetorical expression of interest in the second row. Roughly speaking, rhetoric is the explicit expression of interest. Reification is implicit, where interest is realized by the ways that are not directly expressed. Indeed, reification is often a kind of cover-up, one that benefits some interests at the expense of others. The cover-up then becomes an essential part of the meaning. Parsing interests may uncover human inequalities and travesties of nature that throw into question established patterns of interest. And of course, as our theory of transposition, there is no hard and fast distinction between rhetoric and reification. The one is always ready to become the other. If the cover-up in reification is exposed, the participants under question may resort to rhetoric, or rhetoric may beckon participants into meanings where reification can kick in. The advertisements that bring somebody into a supermarket, for instance. Which leads me now to mention two modes of reification. Activation, in which I am wanting milk to satisfy my human need, and alienation, when getting the milk may involve needless exploitation of people and nature, and senses of disquiet given the underlying cynicism and spiritual emptiness of the commodity entranced world. The great social and cultural theorist Walter Benjamin passed the commodity as a process of reification. The Paris arcades of the 19th century, which in some respects prefigured the 20th century shopping mall, were, quoting Benjamin now, street galleries of lascivious commerce, wholly adapted to arousing desires. The commodity proliferates along the margins and enters into fantastic combinations. This portrait of Benjamin was taken by a photographer who he greatly admired, Germaine Krul, a pioneer of photorealism. He wrote about her and included her shop imagery in his little history of photography. This is one of Germaine Krul's photographs, and these are Benjamin's words. The commodity whispers to a poor wretch who passes a shop window containing beautiful and expensive things. Or to quote artist Barbara Kruger in her modern update of Descartes' I think, therefore I am, reification is a state of being, a way of life, an ontology of ordinariness. To escape the thrall of reification, we need to parse its underlying patterns of interest.